If you're a government employee and you're thinking about the early retirement without penalties offer, I have one question for you. Is it possible that there are some crucial information that you may not be aware of? Now, maybe you've been stuck in your post for ages and you feel like this is your chance to get out. Or maybe you're frustrated with the system. Or maybe you're just feeling tired. Whatever your reason for wanting to leave, one thing is certain. Once you make the decision to leave, there's no going back. Now, how can you ensure that you are making the right choice? My name is Dhevan Naicker and I'm the go-to guy for South African civil servants seeking clarity on whether to retire or resign. In this video, I'll be covering 5 secrets that could help you avoid making a costly mistake with regards to the early retirement offer. Now make sure you watch until the end because the 5th secret is a curveball that many members never ever consider. Let's get started straight away with the secret number 1. And it's this: your retirement values are calculated at age 60 or 65. Now keep in mind that the offer that is being presented is for members between 55 and 59. Now when I say that your retirement values may not be accurate, here's what I'm referring to, right? It's actually not calculated at the age that you see on the statement, and I'm going to bring up a member statement for you to see it up on the screen. So again here, make sure that you are accessing the latest statement when you are viewing this so that you get the most accurate figures. I'm using a member statement again just to give you some type of clarity, and I've blocked out some of the information that's personal. And we can see here from the information, and I'll zoom in onto this one. You'd notice that under point number 9, and it may be a different point on your end, it has information pertaining to the retirement age. So let's go understand this better. On the top here in green, you can see estimated pension benefits before tax. And you'd notice it has the words normal retirement, estimated, and it's got the number 9 next to it. Now, maybe on your pension statement, it might be a different number. It could be 10, 11, 12, but you want to pay attention to the actual note, right? The note that it's referring to. So in my case, it's 9, and I'm reading the note here related to point number 9. And it reads, normal retirement is defined in terms of the rules as at age 60. Or as per your conditions of service. Now, these benefit calculations are estimated and assume that you will retire at age 60. So what this means is the following. Assume you are not yet 60, the figures are forward calculated to age 60. This is why, and this is where the penalty comes in. If we read towards the end, going on further, if you are older than 60, your retirement benefits are estimated to 65. So it's still forward projected. And the last one that I want to read for you here is, towards the end, it says, if you choose to retire before your retirement age, your estimated benefits reflected on the statement will be adjusted. Let's go back onto the slide so that we can have an idea, right, what this means. So in essence, I'm going to use an example here, and again, you can apply the same learnings to yourself. Assume here is where you would reach age 60. It means that the pension statement is already future calculated. So let's say you are here, you could be 55 or 56 or 57, any age before 60, right? 58 or 59. As long as you are before 60, the values that you're seeing in the statement are now forward projected. So meaning it is calculated up to age 60, so here. And this is the reason why there is this penalty. And this is why the offer is early retirement without penalty. So thinking about it carefully, understand that the penalty sort of falls away when you get to retirement age of 60, or if you're older than 60, when you get to retirement age of 65. So the moment you come to those 2 ages, you technically can't have a penalty because they're no longer forward calculating, right? It's specific as at that particular year. But if you are leaving prematurely, say you're leaving at 55, 56, any age before 60, this is why there is this penalty, and this is the reason why the offer might sound to be sweet, because you now are able to access benefits at, say, age 55 that you would have only come to get at age 60, right, from a retirement perspective. So that's the first thing to keep in mind, is the retirement values are calculated in advance, not present. So that's a plus factor here if you are aiming at securing this. Now, what's the next factor that you want to consider is not all members are going to qualify for this. So there are certain targets that they've set in place. There are certain members that may benefit and many members may not benefit from it. So your next step here is to just check to see if you are one of those members that can qualify. So what you'd want to do in order to do this is you would apply. And when you apply, it's obviously going to be a yes or a no. But if you are given a yes, this is where you can now start to look at what are the next steps, right? And I'll share with you shortly. If you're not given a yes, keep in mind that should you decide to leave prematurely, that means you are leaving before this age and you haven't qualified for early retirement offer without penalties, then it means the benefits that you would be receiving would be reduced, right? If you are retiring, because now you are leaving and the penalties would still apply. So I hope that part makes sense. You can comment inside of the YouTube video if anything is unclear, and I'm happy to go through it with you. Let's look at the next step. And this again is something that often members don't consider, is the retirement or resignation value could be a lot higher. So I'm going to do one calculation for you here just to give you an idea. It's okay if you don't know how to do calculations or any of these parts. You don't need to know all of that, right? Just follow through on the video and I'll guide you on it. So let's go back onto the member statement, and we can see here that the lump sum gratuity is sitting at 1,257,000. And if I scroll further down, the resignation value is sitting at 5.1 million. So I'm going to use a round figure here, 5.1 million, just to make the math look easy. I'm going to bring up a calculator. And here's what you want to do, right? I'm now wanting to calculate, assuming that you're resigning, and this is not saying that you're going to go the route of resigning, but I'm sharing with you the importance of comparing both options of retiring and resigning. So if we look at a figure of 5.1 million and we divide the 5.1 million by 3, it gives you a total of 1.7 million. And then you can compare that value against what you see on the retirement value, which is 1,257,000. So observe what I'm doing. Assuming that you were aiming, that this was your statement, you're aiming at resigning. Notice your 1/3 value, even at this point, is sitting at 1.7 million, right? Assuming these are your figures. If I minus this figure, which is the gratuity value, you'll see that the resignation benefit is actually 443,000 Rand more. So although there's no penalties on the resignation side, and although you might even get a penalty-free retirement, it's still important for you to compare retirement and resignation, because what if the resignation values are higher, as is the case here in this particular statement. And it's not just a small value higher. You agree 443,000 is a significant amount extra, isn't it? In addition to that, the resignation could offer you a few more opportunities, like what I'm discussing with you on the third point, which is the tax implications. Keep in mind that from a retirement perspective, let's draw the comparison between the two. On your retirement, the benefits cannot be changed. So the amounts that you are receiving, the pension that you would be receiving, the gratuity that you'd be receiving, those amounts cannot be changed. And because it cannot be changed, the tax that arises from your pension benefit, the tax that arises from the gratuity benefit, it's got to be deducted, meaning you have to pay that, right? It's compulsory for you to be paying it. So here, tax must be paid in this example. Now, in the opposite side, if you are aiming at resignation, and this is not again saying that you have to go this route, but I'm sharing with you the importance of comparing both options before you make a decision, right? And towards the end, the fifth point, as I mentioned at the start of the video, I've got something important that I want to share with you, which will make it all come together and connect. On the resignation side, if you followed my previous YouTube videos, if you've been watching the testimonials, or if you watched the masterclass, you would know that resignation, when it's planned properly, allows you the benefit of flexibility. It allows you to be able to adjust values, right? So here, the values can change, right? Meaning you can adjust it. And when you have that type of flexibility, this is what creates or gives you the benefit of being able to save on tax, right? So here, tax can be saved. In this example, right? Now, going further, it's not just tax on the income, it's on both elements, right? You can start to save tax on the income, you can start to save tax on the lump sum, or what I call the true 1/3 lump sum. And if you are a government employee who started work before 1998, you also have access to the pre-98 tax-free benefits. Now, again, if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't watched the YouTube testimonials of other members, then I want to encourage you to head over onto the channel, have a look at some of the testimonials where members who started before 1998 have maximized this pre-98 tax-free savings. And they also put themselves in a position where they could save tax on the income as well as tax on the true 1/3 lump sum. So quite a significant amount of savings can be generated from a tax perspective, again, if the resignation is planned properly. Again, my reminder is I'm not encouraging you to resign. I'm just encouraging you to compare the options before you settle on your decision, right? Because once you make it, you know there's no turning back. The fourth point to consider is leaving earlier than what you would have planned. So one of the members who had connected with me earlier this week who had asked me this question is currently sitting at age 56 and wants to consider leaving early. Now, keep in mind, this particular member has some type of debt, right? And maybe you have it, maybe you don't, but this member has a bond, has access to some credit card debt, but has some debt in place. And what happens over a period of time, the longer that you are in employment, obviously if you are disciplined, you would notice that your debt will start to reduce because each month you are paying some money in. And as you move closer then to that actual retirement age, the debt starts to shrink, which means although you're having access to your gratuity or your true 1/3 lump sum, depending if you retire or resign, a larger portion of your money becomes accessible to you, right? Because you don't have to spend a lot of this in terms of the debt. So keep this in mind that if you are leaving a little earlier than expected, you want to factor whether you have enough to settle off the debt, as well as the income that you are left behind. Is that income enough to service the debt if you've got to keep going with it? Or is that income enough for you to live as long as you live, right? So keep that in mind. And then the last point, I promise this was going to be the cracker for you, is not comparing. So one of the mistakes members have made when these options were being offered previously is not comparing retirement and resignation. So although the offer is there, and even if it is getting granted to you, as I shared with you earlier, once you make the decision, there's no going back. You're unable to change it and it becomes something that's cast in stone. So why not take the time to run your comparison extensively? Now, I've done all the heavy lifting for you. I have access to a Retire vs. Resign Masterclass, which compares all the areas that you need to be aware of. Now, it's not just from an income perspective. Of course, when you're running the comparison, you want to consider what would you receive from an income perspective. You want to consider what would you get from a lump sum perspective. But you also want to start taking other factors into account, right? So for example, tax, you want to start to look at medical aid. What about cap leave if you have access to it? Your legacy, if this is something that's important to you, as well as investing. Now, the masterclass covers all of these areas, right? It covers every single one in depth. I go through this with practical examples of other members that I've helped, how they've been able to use this money wisely. So starting off with that gives you a sort of foundation, because in reality, it's nothing to do about retiring or resigning, you agree? This is about putting you in a position where you have enough money to live comfortably and you're in control of the money, right? You have the freedom to do the things that you want. So I hope the video has been helpful for you. And there are a number of members who need access to this critical information, I believe, in order to make informed decisions. If you do know of members wanting to apply for the benefit, ensure that you're sharing the video for them. If you're new to the channel, remember to like and subscribe the video so that I'm able to reach out and produce this amazing content for you as often as possible. I'll see you in the next video.